Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Friday, the 18th of April 2025. You are watching Morning Brew on Politics Social. I am Graham Hughes, and the shit news just keeps rolling in. So, look, I've got a bit of advice, and I know I always say you shouldn't give advice unless people ask for it. But if this is getting a bit too much for you, just take a break. Just get away from social media for a few days. It's the Easter bank holiday weekend. Just get away from your phone, turn this show off if necessary. You know, I'd rather you didn't. I'd rather you stayed with us for the next hour. But your mental health has to come first. And if this is all getting a bit too much, just take some time out. Get away from the screens. Get away from Facebook. Get away from Twitter or any of those social media networks. Get away from the newspapers and their disgusting headlines. Just get away from it all for a little bit. For those of you who are still with us, I'd just like to say a big hello. Welcome to the show. This is a safe space here for people of all walks of life. I don't care who you are. I just care about what you do. You see, two different things. Today we're going to be diving into the court case a little bit more and what happened in the Supreme Court. Julian Mahon of the Good Law Projects had a lot of stuff to say about this. So we'll be diving into some of the things that he said. But obviously, I want to talk to you. So if you could throw your name into the chat there, if you could, write something, say hello, that would be great. Katrina's already in there. Jeannie Bottle. We've got you at UK Medsea. We've got Sarah Davis in there as well. We've got Mad Monk and Scott. We've got Saz. We've got Janeway. Hey, how you doing? We've got Gavin Buck. We've got Tommy Lee Cadden. We've got Purity Vendetta, amongst others. If you would like to join our friends in the chat, all you need to do is hit that lovely little subscribe button underneath, wait for about a minute, and you'll be able to join in. Now, we have got moderators in there, and I'm going to moderate it myself. We have no time for trolls. If you troll at all, you will be muted and booted. One strike and you're out. We don't fuck around here. Sorry, there's a 1,000 different media outlets for you to go and indulge your bigotry with fellow bigots. This is not one of them. Okay, so let's get down to it. We're going to be talking today about the fact that there are certainly grounds for taking this case to the European Court of Human Rights because there are a lot of problems with what has been ruled by the Supreme Court this week and the way that the way the judgment was formed and who got to talk in the adjudication. And this is something that's going to be becoming, really important going forward. So we'll talk about it today. So the UK Supreme Court, the headline is this devastating ruling that defines women or woman under the Equality Act as biological sex. So this means things like if you have a gender recognition certificate in certain circumstances, you will not be regarded as a woman in the case of the Equalities Act. Also, if you are a trans man, you will be regarded as a woman. I can't stress this enough. This makes no sense to me whatsoever. It is something that is. Oh, thank you. Just been handed a cup of coffee. Thanks, Kat. Happy birthday for yesterday. This is something that obviously is devastating for the whole trans community, but also it makes no sense. Like, how is it enforceable? No one can come up with a decent way of doing it. Do they want to get like electronic card readers everywhere, every bathroom, in every restaurant and shop and bus station and train station in the country? It's going to have a little card that's got your gender on it at birth, and you're going to swipe that onto a machine in order to be able to access the loo. What are you even thinking about? And then there's this thing of like, oh, we've got to stop male predators going into women's toilets. I'm sorry, but like the TV show Adolescence is going to do a lot more good in that respect of making men respect women's boundaries, making men less likely to fall into the manosphere. And you've got to ask yourself, right? And I want to know this for you, right? And cisgender people only for this question. Sorry to discriminate, but I want to know, right? Have you ever been in the situation in a public toilet, and I'm not going to include school in this because, school's a bit of a different environment. But let's just say, since you're an adult, have you been in a toilet somewhere that you thought you were safe in that toilet and someone peered over the cubicle to look down at you to watch you wee? Has that happened to you? I want to know if anyone in the chat that's happened to them and the circumstances of it. There's some follow-up question to that is, was it a trans woman who did it? Okay? Because I don't think that this has ever happened. This is a made-up crime, like cake is a made-up drug. And this idea that men are going to spend 2 years getting a gender recognition certificate and living as a woman for 2 years in order to peer over the top of the petition of a toilet. I just can't see it. I don't know. I might be wrong. Maybe this happens every day. Maybe some people, it's happened multiple times in their lives. But from my experience of being told, right? So obviously, I'm not a cisgender woman. I've not had this lived experience, okay? I'll make that very clear right now. So I'm willing to hear what's happened. But I would say that if that's ever happened to someone, I don't think it would have been a trans person doing that. Because statistically alone, trans people make up less than 0.5% of the population. It is a small minority of people who mean no harm, who shouldn't be accused of crimes that they have not committed, accused of crimes made up by turfy knobheads who are just like, yeah, well, this is the sort of thing that they do, isn't it? Because what's happening here is exactly what happened in the 1980s when people would say about gay people being paedophiles because they didn't see a difference between them. And so they think of trans women, and it's only trans women, they don't even think about trans men, trans women as some kind of sex offenders, because the line between those two realms is blurred in these people's minds. So I want to talk about that. The only interaction I've had sat in the loo is a neighbouring cubicle is being asked for a loo roll. That's from Anya. It's absolutely not a made-up crime. I disagree. You are a man and have massive assumptions on here this morning. Well, give me an example, Sam Alex Leo. I'm Veg Pie saying a bloke did grab my titty in broad daylight once when I was walking down the street in Kentish Town. If it ever happened, we would all hear about it from the right wing, says Kate Smith, which is what, that's what I think. I'm like, well, show me the evidence of this. I want to hear anecdotes about this actually happening, because to me, if it does happen, if it's ever happened, it's the sort of thing that you would think, especially in the current climate, would be number one news everywhere. And I'm going to say that this is possibly related in a way to the attitude towards immigrants. So immigrants are seen in this country and other countries, because people are racist all over the world, as people who commit more crime. Yet when you drill down into the numbers, immigrants cause less crime. They commit less crime than indigenous people, like indigenous Brits, right? There's a reason for that. And the reason is, when you are an immigrant, if you're on a particular work visa or whatever, that can be taken away from you. Your entire life can be taken away from you at any time. So you are less likely to draw attention to yourself because you're more aware of the consequences of your actions than, say, someone who's born here is like, oh, sod it, what's the worst they can do? You can't be deported from this country necessarily for speeding if you are, if you were born here, they're not going to deport you halfway around the world to a place that you don't know and a place that you have no relatives or friends in. But if you are an immigrant, there is a possibility of that happening. And so immigrants, just because the nature of self-preservation, they're like, okay, well, I'll commit less crimes then. Clearly. And we see this borne out in the statistics. And I think with trans people, it's exactly the same thing. Trans people have been under attack now for 10 years relentlessly by the billionaires, by the oligarchs, by foreign billionaires who want to disrupt our country, who want to spend money in this country. People like Rupert Murdoch, a man born 1 million years ago, 1 million miles away, who doesn't live here for tax purposes, but he has the ear of millions of people in this country. Millions of people can't be arsed thinking for themselves, so they get disgusting, bigoted, transphobic knobheads like Rupert Murdoch, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, J.K. Rowling, to do their thinking for them. To do their rich person, please, rich person, do my thinking for me. I'm too lazy to think about stuff myself. And I think it's very similar with, like I say, with immigrants, because trans people are less likely to commit crimes because they are so hyper aware. Well, the trans people I know are hyper aware of the current situation with the transphobia that is out there. That is just, it's horrific. Janeway says, Faulkner telling the world that trans women can't use female loos. That's not true. That's not what the case decided. You're absolutely right. It was quite a narrow beam on the Equality Act and where trans women stand in the Equality Act, whether they can be regarded as women, even with a gender recognition certificate, which is the bit that blows my mind. Why they couldn't have come up with a judgment that said, okay, so until you get your gender recognition certificate, you're not regarded as a woman. But when you have one, you are regarded as a woman. End of. That's it. That's the rule. So as long as you have a gender recognition certificate, by law, you'll be seen as a woman and treated as such, which is right. It's very, very, very hard to get a gender recognition certificate. And yet the same people who oppose women getting abortions, the same people who oppose women having rights of any sort, are the same people, the exact same people who are losing their minds over trans people needing to piss and going into a toilet cubicle. Let's see if anyone else has got any words to say about this. Veg Pie, I would have seriously got at that guy if I was there. I'm sorry to hear that happened to you, to Veg Pie. Yeah, Tommy, it's disgusting. I've had friends who have been groped. I've had friends who have had even worse things done to them, and it's always been cisgender men. Always. I've used men's toilet to Wembley in the past as a woman. The queue for the women's toilet was huge and I needed to pee, says SW. Yeah, I always bring up Wembley as the best example of architectural sexism. It's a stadium built by a man and they host these huge events there and the queues for the women's toilets go round the block and the block is the size of the stadium. Like, it is absolutely insane that they didn't give a bigger footprint to women's toilets, and they've made them the same size as the men's. Like, what were they even thinking? No. Need more space because there's cubicles. Maybe these TERFs, maybe these transphobes, maybe they think that all women just piss next to each other, like in the men's toilets. Maybe I don't fucking know. Most women wouldn't even know if a trans woman was in the toilet. This ruling means trans men could be in their spaces with beards, etc. Ridiculous, and masculine women could be questioned or banned, said Richard Marson. Yeah, that's something I want to know. And I know I'm going to make a sick joke about this now, but I don't care. Like, I just wondered why so many trans women were celebrating outside the court. I saw them popping the champagne and I thought, all right, love, you're not fooling anyone. Just saying. Faulkner, I've heard that one. Richie Goth, I've been groped by men in broad daylight before. All of my interactions with trans women have been friendly, and now I have lifelong friends, says Richie Goth. Yeah, same here. Same here. And I've my female friends who have had that same experience. So I think someone who is a really great advocate for trans rights is do you remember when do you remember a few years ago when there was the Sarah Everard vigil and there was a woman who was pinned down by the police, and there's that famous striking photograph of Patsy Stevenson being held down by the police, and she's tiny. She's only like 5 foot. Do you know what I mean? She's a tiny woman, and she's being knelt on by like 4 police officers at a vigil, of which the future queen was at that same vigil earlier that day. And Patsy, I hope we can get her on the show, on the channel, to talk about what it's like being a cisgender feminist. I mean, her credentials are there much more than they are for someone like J.K. Rowling, who goes around accusing cisgender women of being trans, something that could get them thrown in jail in their country which they come from. I'm hoping to get Patsy Stevenson but on here to talk about this. But yeah, that's been the experience of friends of mine, female friends of mine, who have had horrific interactions with men and have not had any kind of horrific interaction with trans women. And look, the plural of anecdote is not data, of course. But here's the thing. All of these crimes that trans people are accused of every day, like, the data just doesn't bear it out. You're talking about 1 or 2 cases and blowing it up to say, oh, this is everyone. Imagine if we did that to black people and we said, oh, look, this black kid has committed a crime. All black people now must be excluded from certain public places because they might commit a crime. And J.K. Rowling herself wrote last year, or the year before now, bloody hell, I'm losing track of time. She wrote that we need to stop presuming innocence of minorities. I mean, wow. Well, there you go. You know what minority she meant, but she could have meant any minority. She's a rich white woman. She's the richest author in the world. She's sitting there on a yacht smoking a cigar, laughing at the carnage she has wrought. But she's not going to win. And here's why she's not going to win. There will always be trans people, just like there'll always be left-handed people. There'll always be gingers. They'll always just crop up now and again, everywhere. Everywhere in the world, there will be those people. You can't get rid of them. They'll just keep coming because some people are trans. Some people are gay. Some people are bisexual. Some people are different shades of brown. Like, it is the way that humans are. And to try and get everyone, no, you must be heterosexual, you must be cisgender, you must fit in my little pigeonhole, my little box. And I tell you, all of these transphobes who claim to have friends who are trans, this is what J.K. Rowling was claiming at the beginning of all this. You know, when she accidentally liked a tweet and she said, oh, I've got friends who are trans, I'd march with you for your rights. Remember that? Remember her saying that? Yeah, where are her trans friends now? Where are they? Who are they? Can I speak to them? Can they go on the TV and say, yeah, I'm a good friend with this TERFy woman, the richest TERF in the world, spending billions. Actually, no, because the richest TERF in the world is actually Elon Musk. As a cis woman, I often use blokes' toilets in clubs because there isn't the queue, says Katie Smith. Yeah, I've seen women do that. It happened all the time in the Crazy House in Liverpool. I do not have a problem with trans women using women's toilets, by the way. There are some weird men about, they don't need to be trans or pretending to do bad stuff in loos. Yeah, but also, this doesn't just exclude, say, trans women from using the women's toilets. It stops fathers taking their little daughters into the women's toilets. At the moment, I've got no problem with that. And I could say that, being a man, of course you've got no problem with it, Graham. But do you have a problem with it? Do you have a problem with a dad taking their little girl into the women's toilet and standing outside the cubicle so the little girl doesn't feel alone? What if the girl suffers from anxiety? Do you want them to take do you want the dad to take the little girl into the men's toilets where there's piss all over the seat? Is that where you want? Is that the consequence of this action? Because what a lot of these right-wing bigoted knobheads just can't seem to get through their heads is the knock-on consequences. You take away rights from one group, you automatically take it from others. And don't forget, these scumbags, the weirdos who are outside the court popping champagne, who all look like men to me, but, you know, that's just my own prejudice, I guess. But wow, I mean, you know, I personally wouldn't be going around saying that if you look like you might be trans, you shouldn't be using the gents' toilets. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, you shouldn't be using the women's toilets. If I look like that, do you know? There was the main one who was like the main sort of person who was all falling for it. And let's just say it wasn't me who pointed this out. Someone else pointed out to me. I mean, is she just making her own life more difficult? I think she possibly is. I mean, I'm not saying that she is trans. I'm saying, you know, if there was a Karen in a toilet somewhere in a Happy Eater in you know, near Barnstable, and in the toilets there's a Karen who's washing her hands, and this woman who was popping the champagne outside the High Court comes in, there is a very good chance, And look, I'm live and let live. I don't care about, Western beauty standards. I'm like, well, you should be able to use the toilet that you want to use, that you feel the most comfortable in. But no, she might go in and this Karen is standing there and she's like, you're not using this toilet, use the men's. Why? You don't look traditionally feminine enough. I think you're trans. You need to use the men's toilets, and I'm going to fight you for it because, maybe she's tanked up. Maybe she's on drugs. I don't know. Don't know what Karens do. But you could very well imagine that scenario. In fact, you don't have to imagine it because it actually happened a few months ago in Florida where two TERFs had a fight in a toilet because both of the TERFs thought that the other one was trans. And not trans, I'm a TERF. Could you imagine? What world are we creating for our kids? What world are we creating for the future? Trans people aren't going to go away. You can have your war against trans people, but you'll lose it because there'll always be trans people. And as things go on, people will become less and less prejudiced. Like what has happened with left-handed people who were forced to write with the right hand up until the 1960s. Forced to write with their right hand, even though they were left-handed. Because they wouldn't fit in a nice box. Why are you writing with your left hand? You're supposed to write. Why are you writing with your left hand? You're supposed to write with the right. That's why it's called the right, goddammit, even though it's spelled differently. And yet the left-handed people kept coming. You couldn't stop them. 1 in 10 left-handed. It's like saying to people, oh, we're gonna take everyone's glasses off them because you should all have boss sight. You should all have, and anyone wearing glasses, we're going to take them off you. And if you try and wear contact lenses, we're going to look into your eyes and see if you're wearing contact lenses. How dare you? And then we'll have a court case where it's decided by people who don't wear glasses what people who wear glasses need to do. When people say daft shit like sex is immutable, they don't seem to understand that being trans is immutable, being gay is immutable, needing glasses is immutable. It's just part of our characteristics that make up the rich tapestry of life. And I'm sorry that some people hate that. I'm sorry that some sad little fuckers sitting somewhere in their sad little fucking village, sitting there on the computer going, I want everyone to be the same. Why isn't everyone the same as me? I'm glad they're not the same as you, mate. I'm glad everyone's not the same. I'm glad there's a variety of people out there in the world. Because how boring would it be if everyone was sitting there going, I'm glad everyone's white and straight and goes to church and the correct church. Don't go to the wrong church. Oh, don't be fucking around with those Methodist places. Whoa, don't get me started on the Jews. Honestly, it is just, I don't want that world. I want a rich tapestry. I want there to be culture. I want there to be dance. I want there to be fun and excitement and love. That's what I want. I don't know why that's too much to ask these days. All the strides forward in technology and medicine and understanding of the universe that we have made. And yet people are like, no, sorry, this isn't enough. It's not enough. I need more. I need to find a minority to be horrible to. Find me a minority. I'm going to be horrible to them. Katrina Tam, thank you very much for the super chat. First super chat of the day. Hi, Graham. Thanks for being such a strong ally. Even before I officially transitioned, I've been lucky enough to look very feminine, and I've been told I was going to the wrong toilet when I was about to go in the men's. Wow, that's something, isn't it? That you were at the point where people were saying, you shouldn't be in the men's because you're clearly a woman. But this is the thing, like, not the idea that we have to adhere to some kind of Western beauty standard for women is an affront to feminism. And this is why it's not just the trans people who have lost in this whole court case. Women have lost as well. Cisgender women have lost as well. Because feminism has been knocked back to what the patriarchy wants it to be. And it's so self-defeating to see people who... sorry, there's like a tractor going past my house. Quite distracting. It's so dispiriting to see people who are women, or cisgender women, who are essentially fighting against their own rights, fighting against their own position in society. And instead of trying to elevate that, trying to take it back to what it was in the 1970s, when rape was legal in marriage, when you could not get a mortgage if you were a woman. You had to get your father's or your husband's permission to get a fucking credit card. Like, that was the world that they want to go back to. The people funding this shit want to go back to. Because for a lot of them, they're men. Doesn't affect them at all. You know, up the patriarchy and all that jazz. For the rich women, doesn't affect them either. Do you think J.K. Rowling won't be able to get a mortgage in the future? Of course she will. Of course she will. She was shits in a fucking golden toilet, for Christ's sake, and she's whinging about what people do in toilets, you know, down the road, a little Greasy Spoon Cafe. We need to get rid of unisex toilets. We need to... Why? Because the disabled toilet. Can we just say the disabled toilet's unisex? Can that just be the thing? No. We need a separate toilet for disabled people. We need a separate one for trans people. We need a separate one for black people. Oh, sorry, did I say that out loud? But you know they'll like that. Thanks very much to Zantisukan Amy. Thank you very much. Graham, they don't think that being trans is something they read or seen online. They don't realise that a lot of us have this idea as children. I knew at the age of 4, we will never not exist. Yeah, exactly, Amy. You will never not exist. I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for the super chat. And Alan Jackson, make trans wear a star to help identify them. ... Thanks, Alan. I think Alan's being a bit facetious there, but yes, that's what they would do. That's what they would do if they're a pink triangle to identify them so we know who's who. This obsession with other people have got in their pants. It's just, it's maddening. It's absolutely maddening. So listen, I'm just going to set a little goal here because goals are always good. 30 minutes. And what I'll do is if we get to the goal, I'll do an extra 15 minutes of the show. So we'll go to 10:15. So let's get started on that goal now. It's anything, so you can put in a quid if you want. But let's see if we can do that. So yeah, we're going to be talking today. You know, now that I've sort of got a little bit of that out of my system, obviously I've got more. But yes, the Supreme Court has ruled that the terms women and sex in the Equality Act 2010, in that act only, no other act, okay, that particular act, refer to what they call biological sex only, which opens up another can of worms with people who are neither XX or XY. So what are the characteristics of biological sex? You could say, well, it's chromosomes, but then not everyone is XX or XY. You have intersex people. And then you can say it's genitalia, but then obviously if you're fully transitioned, then you have the genitalia of the gender that you want to transition into. So what is the biological case here? How does that work? You know, the way that people's bodies are. You can say, okay, well, they've got a if they have a uterus, they're a woman. Well, what if you've had cancer and you don't have a uterus anymore? You've had a hysterectomy. Like, are you not a woman anymore? How does that work? Oh, a woman has periods. Well, what if you've gone for your menopause? Well, I mean, women do. All women do at a certain age. Like, so where do you draw the line? Where do you decide what's biological? And that was never, that isn't defined in the 88-word document that they publish. It's not defined in there. So they just say biological sex. What they mean is sex assigned at birth. But that not necessarily is the same as biological sex. Because sometimes there is a baby and the baby's sex isn't obvious. They have a little operation and they're turned into a girl. But they're a boy. And then when they're a teenager, their testes descend. Like, these are things that happen. They're not very common, but they do. So where now for intersex people? Which toilet do they use? This was not defined. They didn't even seem to think about it. Do you know why they didn't think about it? Because no trans people and no intersex people were consulted about this. The only groups that were consulted were the billionaire, transphobe, TERFy twats. That's the only groups that they consulted. Katrina Tam, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. It's not going to stop at toilets. Trans women in the US have been sent to men's prison despite the statistics showing they are extremely likely to be assaulted and or killed there. Yes, you're absolutely right, Katrina, and this is why we have to fight back against this so hard. We need to get as many allies as possible on board to say, look, this has got to stop. This war on trans people is disgusting. It's unfair. It's unfathomable why people have such a problem with trans people. There's a lot of people on the left who have problems with trans people because they think that it's linked with being a feminist. Being a good feminist is being a transphobe. It is not. It is absolutely not. It's like thinking that to be a good ally against racism, you have to be an anti-Semite. I'm like, no, doesn't work like that. If you are against bigotry, you have to be against all forms of bigotry. You can't just turn around and go, yeah, I want to support all these marginalized groups, but except that one. That one can go to hell. Literally go to hell if what the transphobes want comes to pass. I just want the smug grins wiped off their faces in the next few years of these transphobes who think that they're ruling the world at the moment because they've got their man Trump in the White House, a rapist. They've got a rapist in the White House and they are made up about it. J.K. Rowling is popping champagne over the fact they have a rapist, a man who rapes women, a man who has been adjudicated in a court of law, found to have raped a woman. He said that he didn't rape her. She said that she did. It went to court. They found out that on the preponderance of evidence presented in the case, he did actually rape that woman. Eugene Cavill. And that's just one. That's just one. His former wife, who's now no longer with us, buried in a corner of one of his golf courses for tax purposes, she accused him in their divorce proceedings of rape. And she retracted it later, but not in the court of law. Not in the court of law. The man who brags about sexually assaulting women. They're so het up about the idea that there might be a trans person looking over the partition in the cubicle in the toilet. They're so het up about that idea. They're allowing a guy who brags about grabbing women by the genitals, groping strangers, going up to a woman in a club and groping them and saying, oh, you can do anything when you're rich. He's right. You can do anything when you're rich. I think we need to stop that. I think we need to stop rich people thinking they can get away with anything by not letting them get away with everything, which is what the situation is at the moment. So then you've got the fact that this case effectively excludes trans women, even those with gender recognition certificates, from legal recognition as women in key areas. And this case was brought by For Women Scotland, a group of TERFy, just awful people. I had the misfortune of being on a train carriage with a group of these people a couple of years ago on the way to the Labour Party conference. And it was one of the most honestly, it was a bit of a harrowing experience. I would have probably got into a massive row with them, but I had this work that I had to get done by the time I got to the conference, and I didn't have time to spend arguing with these crazy people, but they were awful. I mean, they weren't just awful about trans people. They were ableist. They were mocking a kid who they were talking about who was transgender, saying it was because they were autistic, and a lot of autistic people are like that. They were racist. They were sexist. Like, this is a group called For Women Scotland, and they're sitting there being sexist. I wish I'd recorded their conversation. I probably should have done, just put my phone on and just recorded what they said. It was absolutely horrific. These were just nasty, little, ugly, and bloody hell, they were ugly. I mean, Jesus Christ, no wonder they're so angry at the world. If I had to look at that in the mirror every day, maybe I'd cut down on the cigarettes and the fucking pies. But, I mean, aside from that, I'd be a bit upset. Might not turn me into a massive raging bigot, but, Jesus Christ, but they were so ugly on the outside and so ugly on the inside as well. Like that thing in the Twits by Roald Dahl where he talks about people having ugly thoughts and it comes out in the way they look. You can have people who would otherwise be nominally attractive who by their evilness of their insides just turn into something that is just ugly to look at. Do you know what I mean? There's like another layer to it that we sort of pick up as humans. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be mean about it, but I'm sure there's some reason why they decided one day to wake up and be a massive bigot and dedicate their lives to making other people's lives worse. And that's my guess, I guess. I don't know, probably get into trouble for saying that. Don't care. Kate Smith, thank you very much. I hope the European Court of Human Rights will take the case on. Yeah, that's what we're hoping. That's what we're hoping. And I think it was Whitney Cummings. This is from Tommy Lee. Two broke girls that said about Trump, he can grab my pussy anytime. I always knew she wasn't funny. Just how disgusting is that? Like, what a step back for feminism. Scott says, eat the rich. Couldn't agree more. And Tommy says, you're right, Graham, the left can barely agree on anything. Well, you know, it's like herding cats. Purity says, my new passport arrives tomorrow and the grab bag is ready. We have 3 little rescue dogs. I'm really scared now, says Purity Vendetta. Purity, I don't think it's going to get to the point of people banging on your door and telling you to get out, whatever. But there are people who are fighting back, who are fighting the good fight here. I don't want to give you false hope, but I want to go back to the point I made earlier. They're not going to get rid of trans people. Trans people will always be here. Bigots won't. Bigots die out. Every time bigots die out, bigotry dies. You look at the human attitude, not the human attitude survey, what was it called? British attitude. I suppose British people are humans as well. But the British attitude survey in the 1980s, it was about like only 1 in 20 people in the 1980s thought there was nothing wrong with being gay. Only 1 in 20. Within 30 years, that had been completely flipped. There was only 1 in 20 people thinking there was anything wrong with being gay. Because bigotry dies out. There's a point where you just can't get away with being a bigot anymore. You can't get away with saying that shit or doing that shit. But trans people will always be here. The bigotry against trans people will not. And I know it's really shit at the moment. I know that it's awful for my friends who are trans, and my heart goes out to every one of them. But trans people aren't going anywhere. There will always be trans people. Just like there'll always be left-handed people. And there'll always be short-sighted people. It's a thing that humans are. And you can't stop that. You will never stop that. And the idea that you're going to be building an extra fucking toilet block in every fucking pub, in every restaurant, in every bar, in every cafe, in every church, in every train station, in every fucking in-house, outhouse, bog standard fucking fair, wherever you want, you know, there's going to be an extra one for the trans people to use. That's not going to happen. What, we're going to spend billions on doing that when we've got fucking potholes in the road, when people are living hand to mouth, when 2 million children are living in fucking poverty, and you're going to waste all this money building an extra toilet for that one Karen who's like, I'm sorry, I don't like this wind turbine on the hill. I'm going to write to my MP and get rid of it. Ah! Jesus Christ. This is the implication of the ruling is that public services can now legally exclude trans women from single-sex spaces, e.g. toilets, hospital wards, shelters. Trans women with GRCs are no longer, although I've got to say, like, Shelter and other organisations have made it very clear that they are still going to include trans women. Trans women with GRCs can no longer sit on public boards reserved for women. Institutions, NHS, police, schools, etc., are being told to revise guidance and strip back trans-inclusive policy. And they're going at it with speed. Like, Jesus Christ, I'll come to that in a moment. But the thing is, this was a voiceless verdict, okay? The ruling was made without hearing from a single trans voice or trans-led organisation. Not one. Not fucking one. The Good Law Project attempted to intervene with trans voices, Stephen Whittle, Victoria McLeod, and the request was rejected without explanation. The court, however, did listen to interventions and untested evidence from Sex Matters, the LGB Alliance based in 55 Tufton Street, Scottish Lesbians and the Lesbian Project. Julian Morn said, this is monumentally unfair. They should have known that they didn't know. Yeah. And also, The evidence that these billionaire-backed groups, these Brexity, Trumpy, billionaire-backed, nightmare, bigot bastards, these groups presented evidence which was looked at uncritically. Like the court just went, okay, yeah, and just took it at face value. The billionaire bigots couldn't believe their fucking luck. There is a legal principle. Audi Altarum Partem. I had to read that, sorry. I didn't know off the top of my head. That means let the other side be heard. And that did not happen in this case. And it's one of the most basic tenets of justice. Now, the impact is already happening. British Transport Police now mandates trans women to be strip searched by male police officers in the City of London. Sorry, not the City of London. Yeah, you know what I mean. London. I just, of all the police areas in the country, in the world, oh my God. Because they've got such a great reputation, the police in London, haven't they? Haven't they? The NHS have been instructed, mandated in fact, to update their guidance, trans women to be placed in male hospital wards. Public toilets and changing rooms now legally restricted on birth sex. How is this going to be policed? How is this going to be monitored? How is any of this going to work? The court doesn't know. The court doesn't give a shit. There were no trans people on the panel. There were no trans people in the court. There were no trans people getting a word in at all. And yet, from the other side, the billionaires talk about the trans mafia. Like there's this group of trans people who control everything. Really? Really, Dorothy? Really? I think you'll find that if you type in private school mafia, you might be able to find a real mafia there. Real group of people that control everything in our country. Who control everything that you see and hear. I think you'll find that group there. They might not be working together in concert, but oh my God, they've got a lot of power. And there's 1,250 names on that list. I can't find one name to put on my trans mafia list. Where are they? Who are they? Nobody knows. They weren't there. They weren't invited. They don't have the backing. They don't have the money. They don't have the funding to do this stuff. Chris C., how can the ruling be deemed legally safe? Says Chris C. I don't think it can be, and I hope this goes to the European Court of Human Rights. But this is the thing, and I was going to come to this later, and this is what it seems so fucking obvious to me. Right? This is as obvious to me as the glasses on my stupid face. They are doing this on purpose because they have a roadmap, and the roadmap goes like this. We set it up, we go to the High Court, we go to the Supreme Court, they rule in our favour, then it goes to the European Court of Human Rights, and obviously in the European Court of Human Rights, they will probably find for trans people. They will probably find that due process wasn't done in the Supreme Court, the United Kingdom, and what do you think? The billionaire bigot bastards who brought these cases in the first place are going to do with that. They're going to put it on the front page of all their fucking shitty little shit rag newspapers, which I'm not showing today because I can't bear to see that disgusting rolling woman lauding it on every cover of every fucking newspaper. They're going to go, oh, we got look at what the European Court of Human Rights, a foreign court, as the Tories keep calling it. It's not a foreign court. We're part of it. It would be like a Scouser going to court in Manchester and saying, oh, it's a foreign court because it's not in Liverpool. It's like, no, it's part of the same system. We can have British judges on the panels of the European Court of Human Rights because we are part of the European Court of Human Rights. But the billionaire bigots, the Peter Thiels, the Elon Musks, the Donald Trumps of this world, the Rupert Murdochs, they want to do away with the European Court of Human Rights. The Tories want to do away with the European Court of Human Rights because they are rich motherfuckers who don't want to give you a voice. They want to make sure that it's just them that gets heard. That's just their voice that everyone has, and the legal system has to be in hoc to what they want, to what the lies and the bullshit that they want to farm. This is what they're doing. This is clearly what they're doing. They're building this case up to go to the European Court of Human Rights And they're using this as a Trojan horse, as so many issues with trans people are. It's a Trojan horse to get Britain out of the European Court of Human Rights, because then the only people who will have rights in a court of law in this country, as we've seen so many times again and again and again, are the rich. The rich, the filthy rich, the disgusting rich, the Coots bank account rich. The Faragers of this world, who want it so that they can use courts to do whatever they want, but when they put out a tweet encouraging people to go and riot and burn down a hotel with women and children in it, nothing happens. They don't go to court. They don't get put in jail. They're too rich. And they run the system and own the system. And the only higher level out there that could possibly stop these billionaire bigoted bastards from doing whatever the fuck they want, the European Court of Human Rights. Let's get out of it. That's what they want. That is what they want. This is their game plan. Mark my fucking word. So please, if you meet someone who is anti-Brexit and left-wing in all other walks of life, all other aspects of life, but says, oh, I don't like trans people, I don't want them using my toilets, have a fucking word with them and tell them what's going to happen. You read out the roadmap. And so what happens is they put something on Twitter or, Threads, Blue Sky, Facebook, whatever, and a billionaire doesn't like it. The billionaire doesn't like it. And do you know what happens because the billionaire doesn't like it? That friend of yours loses everything. Everything. Everything they have ever worked for, built up. They lose their career, they lose their house, they lose access to their children. They end up in jail because one billionaire has it out for them. And there's no justice. Under law, there's no justice for people who aren't billionaires. That's the world that the billionaires want to create, where they can target individuals and destroy their lives, take everything from them. And the thing that is stopping them doing that is the European Court of Human Rights in this part of the world. So they are desperate to get rid of it. And this is the world. This is the world that the transphobes want. You might want to point that out to your next lefty friend who pretends that they care about the plight of people in Palestine. They clearly don't give a fuck about anything but themselves and their own ego and making themselves look good online. If you really care about people, you've got to care about all people. It's no good saying, oh, well, I'll defend this minority till I die, but this other minority, well, you know what they're like. Yeah, that's bigotry, mate. Pure fucking bigotry. Trans people already face increased policing, harassment, misgendering, and denial of services. This is just going to make it worse. The government is sitting on suicide data because the reality is it's just too damning. The real knock-on consequences of what's happening. GRCs, these are hard-won legal documents are now effectively meaningless. And then, the fact that, this ruling, it just creates confusion and hostility and legal uncertainty for trans people in their everyday life. This isn't just like, if you go to court or you do this thing or you get caught committing a crime, then things are going to change. No, this is everyday life for trans people. This is using a fucking toilet, something that everyone needs to do, and which toilet they're allowed to use and who's going to police it. The fucking Karens. But like I said earlier, this is gonna fuck over cis women too. Women who don't conform to gender norms, butch lesbians, trans mask individuals, older women with masculine features are now way more likely to be harassed in single sex spaces. Increased gatekeeping of women's spaces equals, increased policing of women's appearances and their bodies. We are seeing in America right now, they're trying to bring in laws so that gruesome old men, pedophiles, sex offenders are legally required to inspect the genitals of children before they're allowed to play football. This reinforces sexist ideas of what a woman should look like. This isn't feminism. This is surveillance. This is some kind of communist fucking conformity, the likes of which I thought these capitalist wankers hated all the communist stuff. I mean, this is taking communism to a whole new level. See, it's not just that everyone has to be the same and act the same and have the same attitudes and lead the same kind of lives and marry the same type of people. No, we all need to look the same as well now. We need to look the same to keep the bigots happy. Heaven forfend someone might want to be an individual and look different. The ruling sets a precedent for reducing all womanhood to biology, erasing lived experiences and social identity. Because that's what it does. Boils it down to what are your chromosomes, but not even that. Because chromosomes are open to interpretation, depending on, who you are. And this is, a slippery slope to systemic exclusion, as our friend Rachel points out time and time again. This is the first step on the way to taking away rights for gay people, taking away rights for women, taking away rights for minorities. It mirrors the aftermath of Roe versus Wade being overturned in the US, where these sort of dormant legal threats sprung to life. You're seeing the same thing happen here. It was only a day after the ruling that the British Transport Police in London were like, hey, we can strip search trans women now. Yay! So the excuse is going to be when a police officer, a male police officer, demands to strip search a woman, a cisgender woman, right? He's going to say, oh, sorry, I thought she was trans. And that's why I needed to see her naked. So this is given a right. Fucking hell. Now that I say it out loud, it's even worse than we've even considered I've considered up to this point. This ruling gives the British Transport Police, and therefore the Met Police in London, right? This Met Police with its few bad apples, all 750 of them, the right to strip search a woman, a cisgender woman, and when they're told, oh, you shouldn't have done that, after they've had an eyeful, probably taken some photos, put it online for their mates, on their gruesome WhatsApp chats where they joke about raping women, yeah? And he can say, sorry, I thought she was trans. It was my assumption that she was trans, and therefore I had to conduct the strip search because I really wanted to see this woman naked. And now the law's with that. That's feminism, is it, love? That's feminism. For the dickheads popping the champagne outside the courtroom. Is that the feminism you were looking for, was it, love? Kids, young kids. That's what they're going to go after. They're going to say, I'm sorry, these gruesome old men, these gruesome old 50-year-old, 60-year-old, chain-smoking, gruesome, shoulders up, whiskey-drinking twats. They're going to be like, oh, great. I could demand to see naked little girls now. Thanks a lot, Supreme Court. Thanks a lot, Supreme Court. Paedophiles fucking charter, more like. Wowzers. Amy, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. If anyone knows a trans person that's clearly going through a bad time, please reach out to them, post a letter if you had to. Couldn't agree more. Absolutely. Solidarity is so important right now, and we need to show to people who are trans that they are not alone in their upset, their anger, and we're there for them and we will protect them as best we can. We will do everything in our power to do that. Plenty of trans women would need an internal exam to know if they are trans. Yeah, Casey Walker. Which is why when a police officer demands that a 16-year-old teenage girl, a male police officer, an old male police, it doesn't matter if they're old, but a male police officer will be able to demand to strip search a young girl, and he'll be able to say, well, I thought they were trans. Purity Vendetta says, I won't be using trains anytime soon. Exactly, Purity. You're being excluded. You're being absolutely excluded. Remember, everyone, to take time off politics to go and enjoy something you like. The world's a lot at the moment, but we need to keep ourselves mentally as healthy as possible and keep fighting. Alvone, couldn't agree more. I said that at the top of the show. If you need time for your own mental health, honestly, just get off social media for a little bit. Just go and go for a walk. See your friends. Give someone a call. I mean, text first because it's rude to just call people these days because this is the world we live in. But everyone's on call 24/7. But yeah, give a friend a call. Maybe someone that you haven't spoken to in a while. See how they are. See how they're getting on. Have a natter. Have a natter. We've only got 2 minutes and 15 seconds to get another 7 super chats in. This is going to be difficult. Does anyone want to drop a quid in? If we get near enough the target, I'll go on for another 15 minutes because I'm nowhere near finished. Jesus, and I honestly, I used to worry about not being able to fill an hour show with stuff to talk about. Everyone's watching this going, "Oh, Graham, we know you got a wit him on anyway." We're not giving you any fucking money. But yes, so we're going to talk a little bit about the sort of slippery slope to systemic exclusion. As Purity Vendettas just pointed out, it's not safe now for trans women to use the underground. Like, it's such a good point. This new guidance will reshape policing and healthcare and education, public access. Statutory codes from the Equalities and Human Rights Commission will soon be treated as the law of the land. Public bodies are already acting on it even before the guidance from the EHRC is even published. And the fear is that this will create a patchwork of a patchwork society where trans people are treated as threats, not citizens, which is already what the transphobes want. A two-tier system where legal recognition means little if institutions discriminate freely. And the court was at pains to say this doesn't take rights away from trans people. I mean, how thick are these fucking Supreme Court justices? I mean, that is a level of naivety I'd expect from like a child, a particularly ignorant child. And these gruesome old Supreme Court knobheads are sitting there going, "Yeah, this seems fair. No, it's fine. I don't mean you. I don't mean you." It's similar to what happened with Brexit, isn't it? Like with our friends and neighbours from Europe who had to go through all these hoops to stay here, or maybe just left because of the situation. It was like, "Oh, I didn't mean you." Thanks very much to Katie Smith for the 79p. Thanks, Katie. I really appreciate that. We're almost getting there. We've got 12 seconds left to drop a super chat in. I don't think we're going to make it. Should I just stop? Should I just turn the show off? Just go, right, that's it, bye. You know I won't. Look, this is also, we talk a little bit about intersectionality for a moment. It's also the class war and the culture war. Trans people suffer disproportionately from poverty, from unemployment, from healthcare exclusion anyway. A lot of trans people have to go through private means in order to get their healthcare. And then when they need ongoing care like HRT off the NHS, that is now being denied to trans people. This is a war. This is a war because people don't want trans people to exist. But here's the thing. Trans people are always going to exist. Trans people will outlive bigotry because there'll always be new trans people. Bigots just don't survive. When there's a wave of bigotry, when that dies off, they're gone. They're gone forever. They don't come back. The bigots that we're seeing running the world at the moment have always been bigots. They've always got away with fucking murder. That's just the way that society was in the 60s and 70s. But we kept pushing, and we need to keep pushing. We can't stop. We cannot stop the fight, and we can't think, "Oh well, we've got gay marriage now. Everything's done." Because it's not as simple as that. Sarah, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Thank you to you all. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for sticking with us. I know I don't always say the right bloody thing on these shows, but I am riffing, But I do feel like someone needs to say this shit, and I'm not seeing enough of it in the news, on traditional media. I am seeing a lot of it on TikTok, so maybe it's just my For You feed, my algorithm, but I've seen a lot of people pushing back on what's happened. A lot of people who are shocked, outraged, pissed off, and it's not just trans women, but also cisgender women and also trans men, just going off on one, going, this is a fucking disgrace. This isn't going to work. Intersex people as well saying this. Where am I supposed to go? An intersex person saying, where do I go? What do I do? I'm not provided for in this law because biologically I'm neither male nor female, a bit of both. And shouldn't that be private? Shouldn't that be something that it's between you and your doctor and your loved ones, I guess? I don't understand why it needs to be public knowledge, public information. Do you need a card? Do you have to have a special card to let you into the toilets? Little, QR code on it. Wow. Yovash, thank you very much for the €20. You're the voice of us that prefer to stay silent, so keep talking, Graham. You're doing a good job. Oh, thanks, Yovash. That's really kind of you. And Cathal is in there as well with a £3 super chat. You better keep going. No James O'Brien today. Oh God! don't give me ideas. I've got to stop before 1 because then I'm doing the agenda with Phil, and then we'll be talking about Labour and how Labour have reacted to this news and what things are going to be like going forward, and more importantly, I think like what we can do to lobby our Labour MPs to get them to understand the severity of the situation and what is happening here, because I think a lot of them don't realise what it's going to be like, and what maybe when you give the example of this is giving the Met Police a carte blanche to strip search male officers, to strip search cisgender women, because they'll say, oh, I thought they were trans. And if you've had the full procedure and a gender recognition certificate, yeah, it's going to be very, very hard to decide whether you are trans or not. How does a male police officer decide that? Well, gets you naked, gets an eyeful, takes pictures of you, puts it online, who knows? The Met Police has not got the best of reputations in the last few years. I mean, it's been some of the things that have happened have been absolutely horrific. Absolutely horrific. You had that Cressida Dick woman who just didn't seem to give a shit. Privately educated, of course. Anyway, trans women earn 60 pence for every pound earned by a cisgender man. Trans unemployment is 14% versus the cis unemployment rate, which is 8%. Nearly 30% of trans people live in poverty versus 15.7% of cisgender people. This is not just a culture war. It's class warfare. Divide and rule tactics using minority scapegoats to distract from failing systems. NHS, housing, infrastructure, austerity. And my personal theory about why J.K. Rowling has thrown her hat into the ring on all this is from, I think it stems from her being outed as Robert Galbraith and this anger at losing control of a hair identity, which has been projected to an outwards crusade to anyone else who dares to want to define their own identity. And, the fact that she has funded and lobbied this legal campaign, she's platformed TERFs and influenced Labour policy, and her books are increasingly trans-coded. They depict trans-coded villains, and this isn't. She's not misunderstood. This is very, very deliberate, and this leads to the future where it will go to the European Court of Human Rights for a breach of a fair hearing, which is what clearly it is. I mean, even to an armchair, legal scholar like myself, it seems pretty evident, right? So what's your technical basis for thinking this was an unfair hearing, Graham? Well, you had one side coming in who are a bunch of transphobes saying all this transphobic stuff, and you're making a rule about trans people, and you didn't hear from any trans people. There you go. There's my drill down into the deep legalistic implications of all this. Let's drill into. No, it's dead simple. It's straightforward. Why was this defendant, the accused? Why was this accused person not given counsel? Well, not given anyone to argue their case? Like, why weren't they allowed to appear in court? Why weren't they allowed to have a voice? Why weren't they allowed to make a statement? Or even better, actually, more likely in this is, imagine someone goes to court for committing a horrific act and the victim isn't allowed to say anything in court. Isn't allowed to even have a statement read by their lawyer in court. That's the situation that we have at the Supreme Court this week. And it's so unstable. It is so shoddy as a legal basis for anything to have a judgment which has been come to by only listening to one side of the argument. The turfy side, the money side. We only listen to the money, says the Supreme Court. Ivan, thank you very much for the £5 super chat, my friend. That's very kind of you. The Supreme Court has done good in the past, e.g. on the Rwanda scheme, but on Wednesday they let people down as well as themselves. Yeah, absolutely. I think that I'm not saying we should throw the baby out with the bathwater. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have the Supreme Court. I think that we should. And I have no idea why they decided to run this case in this way and allow the billionaires to have their say and the people who aren't billionaires to not. But I don't think that trans people and the toilets they use is the reason why For Women Scotland and all of these anti-trans groups were there, right? This isn't why I think they were invited along to the party. I think it was because groups like the LGB Alliance, which doesn't seem to feature any lesbians, gays, or bisexuals, but there you go, which is based in 55 Tufton Street, the home of the conservative, fascist, right-wing, ultra-right-wing, billionaire think tanks on behalf of the merchants of death, the oil companies, the arms manufacturers, the tobacco barons, all those fuckers. They're all working together. You know, the individual lobby groups that are based in that one building, but they're all working together for the aim of making a world in which if you say something mean about a billionaire, which they fucking hate, this is why Elon Musk bought fucking Twitter. This is why he wanted to buy Wikipedia. He didn't want to allow an internet that said mean things about him. He wanted to close that route off for people saying mean things about him on the internet. And that's what all the billionaires want. They want to stop the voice of the people. They think that the only important voice is their own. And they love the sound of it. They love the sound of their voice, and they want everyone to march lockstep with what they think and what they believe. And they want the ability that if someone says or writes something mean about them online, that they can destroy that person. So they can press down on that person till they pop. And that is the future they want. That is the future that the billionaires want, and we need to fight back against it. And people need to realize that all of this is connected. And like I said yesterday, if you're ever worried about what side you are on a given debate, just have a look who's behind you, who's on your side, who's fighting the good fight with you. Hey, Donald Trump, Andrew Tate, Russell Brand. What? Really? Farage, Murdoch, all the fucking tabloid press newspapers, disgusting. Nick Ferrari, oh great, well done. They seem like a good bunch to have on your side in a fight. So yeah, there may be grounds for taking this to the European Court of Human Rights. I think there's very strong grounds. The Good Law Project is funding 10 to 12 legal cases related to trans rights. Legal barriers for trans people are rising, higher risk, higher cost, lower chance of justice. Kemi Badenoch and the ECHR, that's the Equalities and Human Rights Commission, are pushing for further legal rewrites. The Equalities and Human Rights Commission at the moment, I think it's Lord Faulkner, isn't it, or Lady Faulkner, something, who's in charge, who's a terrible TERF as well. So it's not a great position for an equalities watchdog to be in. Labour's silence on this is deafening, and we're going to get into this with Phil later on today. Rachel Reeves has ducked the issue, and Anis Sarwar now backs the biological definition. It's the leader of Labour in Scotland. If you are trans, non-binary, or gender non-conforming, you are not alone, and you are loved, and you deserve dignity and respect. End of. That's the rule. That's the rule on this channel. That should be the rule everywhere. If you are an ally, now is the time to speak up. Make a video. Do a Facebook post. Out people. If someone in your friendship group argues against them, put them right. Explain to them why it's going to affect them, because they might not understand the wider implications of all this. And pull that big gun out. Say, basically, this is going to give the police the right to strip search your daughter, and male police officers will be able to do that and claim that they thought that she was trans. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that idea of them taking pictures of your daughter naked and putting them on their WhatsApp groups, because that's the sort of thing the police do. That's the sort of thing that the police have documented, like the documented evidence of the police doing this. Whereas this whole surprise, I'm actually a man using your toilet, so I'm going to sexually assault you now, is something that is so vanishingly uncommon. It doesn't seem to have been documented anywhere. In the last 10 years, I've not seen any cases. If there are, I mean, that would be remarkable. And yet all we're doing is drowning in misinformation. There was a study that was published by, that was referred to by J.K. Rowling a few years ago. And it was about sexual assaults in prison involving trans women. And it was a really high number. And she used this to go, oh, look at the trans people sexually assaulting people. No. Involving 99 times out of 100, it was a trans woman being assaulted in jail. And yet they used this evidence to try and prove the exact opposite of what the report actually said. Quite successfully. And that nugget of disinformation is disseminated across the population. And they think that men are pretending to be women to get into women's prisons, because that happens. And you know this because if there is one trans person who transgresses in any way whatsoever the law in this country, it's front page news. It's everywhere. Oh my God, we got one. Ha ha. But if you are trans, you are more likely to be a victim. In the same way that if you are a man, you are way more likely to actually be a victim of sexual assault than to be falsely accused of sexual assault. And yet all the laws, all the paranoia, all the shit that you see in the news and the media and that, it's always about men fearing that they might be accused of doing something they didn't do. When the reality is, if there was more robust laws to stop people sexually assaulting other people, men and women, that man would be better off. Di, thank you very much for the £10 super chat, Di. And this week, when the US Supreme Court finally did the right thing, yeah, it seems a bit mad, doesn't it? Oh, the good news is that Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the guy who was spirited away to El Salvador, we thought he might be dead, but the senator for Maryland has gone and visited him, and there's a photo of them together, so we know he's still alive. Which is good, but the El Salvadorian authorities are still not giving him up, and Trump is, declaring he knows nothing about it. He loves doing that, doesn't he? He knows everything until he knows nothing. Simon Smith, check out who the head of the EHCR is. She's a real piece of work. Yeah, that's Faulkner, isn't it? A person's trans status shouldn't matter to anyone but their partner and their doctor. No one else should care. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. It's got nothing to do with anyone. Nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with you. It's nothing to do with anyone. It's just it's someone's own private thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, what kind of world are we creating where we have to demand to see what's in other people's fucking pants? Are we going to have rules where if a man is too well endowed, he's not allowed to use the toilet in case what could he do with that? I mean, come on. Where'd you draw the line? Where'd you say no? This is ridiculous. I think the line should have been drawn where it said that the Met Police are going to be able to demand that teenage girls strip naked in front of them, and they'll say, I thought you were trans. Why do you think you're trans? Well, you've had the boob job. You've got a scar from the boob job. Or scars. So, yeah, that's my justification for thinking that you were trans. You've had gender-affirming surgery. And who's to say? If you're fully transitioned, you look like a woman. You look like... Purity says trans charities were apparently worried about getting involved in the case as they were scared of being investigated by the Charities Commission. Meanwhile, the LGB Alliance was found to be fine. Yeah, the charity in 55 Tutton Street, the charity for billionaires, because billionaires need more charity, don't they? They need more of a say. God, I fucking hate them. God, I can't wait for the fucking revolution. I never used to be this, but I always used to be a moderate. I always used to be a moderate, centralist bloke who just didn't really, I wasn't that interested in politics. I took a sort of passing interest in it. But this is just the world in which these billionaire bastards want to create. We need to get rid of them. They need to go. Being a billionaire is a mental health problem. Like, it is a serious mental health problem. We need to capture these people in a big fucking net. We need to take them to a sanitarium for their own good. We need to put them in fucking a straitjacket in a padded room with the print of money all over the walls, right? And they can sit there all day licking the walls, licking the money, licking the walls of their padded cell, right? Screaming about trans people and wokeness and the needing to make more money and whatever else these mad motherfuckers want to do. And no one hears them. No one sees them. They're just in a fucking cell screaming into the fucking void while they lick their fucking walls of money. You leave them to it. Leave them to it. Billionaires, we shouldn't have any. And, people go, what about Paul McCartney? What about Taylor Swift? I'm like, well, they can give some of the money away until they're not a billionaire anymore. And then that'll keep them out of the loony bin. I know I'm not supposed to call it a loony bin. I know I'm not supposed to use this kind of language, but, Big Marvinsky saying, Graham, I just wanted people to have a good standard of living. Now I want these fuckers to pay. Yeah, I've become much more radical in my old age. Like, oh, fuck them. Because I didn't have a problem with the system incrementally getting better. I realized that, systems are like humans, and life in general, it's messy, it evolves, it changes over time. Sometimes it goes backwards, sometimes it goes forward, whatever. But this is too much. This is too much, man. Like, seriously, it's too much. We can't be letting these fuckers get away with it to the extent that they are. And they are lording it over us. They are absolutely lording it over us. And it feels like, in a way, there's fuck all we can do about it because we don't have the money. We don't have any millionaires backing our cause. We just don't. We rely on drips and drabs coming in, Ivan, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. Sorry to go off topic, but the fears about cuts to disability benefits are not going away. Write to your MP, go on demonstrations if you can, and submit the green paper consultation. Yes, Ivan, I absolutely agree. And obviously, we're not talking about that today, but yes, we need to be keeping that in people's minds because another trick of the right is by throwing so much shit at us all the time. It's really hard for us to keep up. Andrew Dixon has just gifted 5 Politics Social memberships. Oh wow, thank you, Andrew. That is really kind of you. Welcome new members to the channel. We've got David Lilly in there. Plum Duff is now a member. Yay, Plum Duff's been around on this channel for ages. Kieran received a gift membership, and Brad W did as well, and so did Chris G. Thank you so much to Andrew Dixon for that. Very, very generous of you. Thank you, Andrew. Andrew's a good egg. You're a good egg, Andrew. You're a good egg. Grimfang says, same. I say I'm moderate until you put me in a room with fascists. Di says she's also ex-territorial army SAS. Do you know how much damage a 6-foot ex-SAS in 6-foot 6-inch stilettos can do to a transphobe? Pineapple Boy, billionaires are not crazy, just greedy. Orange ones might be the exception. Yeah, but I think that greed is a mental health problem. They're addicted to money. If you're going to say that people who are addicted to drugs have got a mental health problem, which I do think they have, people who are addicted to gambling or alcohol or sex, they have a mental health problem. Being addicted to money is a mental health problem that isn't just fucking utterly destructive to the person and also the people around them, like alcoholism, right? But this is something that is damaging to society as a whole. That's why I want these people caught in a big net, right? Big one, there's child catcher nets, grab them. Put them in a fucking padded cell for the rest of their lives. That's what I'm advocating. I'm not advocating, someone pointed out, quite rightly, that the reason why the billionaires want to go to space is because guillotines require gravity. I don't want to go that far, although that's quite funny. But I don't want to go that far. I just want to see them given the help that they need, because they're obviously damaged people, and they're not coping with life. So we have to do something, because instead of using all of their money, all of their hard-earned cash, and going out and living a life, living their best life, they decided to live their worst life instead. Alistair, thank you very much. Alistair has just gifted another 10 Politics Social memberships. So I think everyone watching is now going to become a member, which is fantastic. It means you get a little rose next to your name, like Anne Phillips and Chris C there. So welcome, Dynamo Hun. We've also got Jolie in there. We've got Antonoli. We've got Lauren, Hazel, Reed Error. We've got Mark R, GHK, and Electra Gaming, and Just a Person. You're all now members of Politics Social for a month. Well done. Thank you very much to Alistair Kerm for gifting that. That is a really lovely thing what you've done. Chrissy says addiction is a horrible disease. It's difficult to overcome. Yeah, it is. It is. But we don't regard addiction to money as a disease. We should. We definitely should. And for the good of society, I think these people should be locked away. Maybe there's no cure. Maybe there's no cure for it. Well, maybe taking all their money away. That might be the cure. Maybe we're actually helping them by taking their money off them. Maybe that would help them and help society, redistributing their money to places that need it. Koto, J.O., exactly. This is not about policing cis women. This is not just about policing cis women too. The narrow definition of what a woman is will cause lots of problems. Women who don't wear dresses, makeup, etc., etc. Yeah. It opens up a whole fucking can of worms. Massive can of worms. What they've done. They should have said, if you have a gender recognition certificate, you're a woman. Or you're a man if you're a trans man. That's it. It's really hard to get a gender recognition certificate. It's not an easy thing to do. Criminals don't do it in order to assault women. They just assault women. It's like, imagine thinking that the only way that people are going to rob banks is if they pretend to be a woman for 2 years before they do it. I mean, it might have been a screwball wacky comedy from the 1980s where someone had to do that, but in real life, that never happens. It's never like, oh shit, I can't rob this bank until I pretend to be a woman for 2 years when I'm really not. And take hormone tablets and grow breasts. Okay. Why do you need that to rob a bank? Why don't you just, I don't know, rob the fucking bank? I'm not encouraging anyone to rob a bank, obviously. I'm just saying, like, if you're going to commit a crime, you just commit the fucking crime. Especially when it's a lot easier to commit a crime like sexual assault on someone that you know, on someone that you're familiar with, someone whose house you are in, or someone who you've picked up or gone on a date with, or whatever. Like, why would you? Why would you go through all this Tootsie fucking Mrs. Doubtfire shit in order to pretend you're a woman when you're really not, in order to commit a fucking crime? And the idea that men, real, the cisgender men, would go to the fucking toilets and go, I'm going to commit a crime now. Oh no, but it says women only on the toilet, so I'm not going to go in there and commit a crime that I want to commit, because these people are murderers, they're rapists. Why would that put them off? Do you know what will put them off? The fact that it's a fucking public space. The fact that people could come in and out at any time because it's public fucking space. It always reminds me of this line in Sherlock Holmes, and I love this because Sherlock Holmes is just a misanthrope. He's just a miserable bastard. I love him for it. And they go out into the countryside. I think it might be Hound of the Baskervilles. I'm not sure. One of the books. And they're travelling through the countryside and on their way to fucking, I don't know, Dartmouth or wherever it's set. And Watson says to Sherlock, oh, isn't it lovely? The bucolic countryside, isn't it lovely? All the beautiful trees and the meadows and the sheep. And Sherlock goes, no, I fucking hate the countryside because all these crimes here and all these crimes are committed out in the countryside and no one ever finds out about them. He says, in a city, there's people everywhere. There's people. So, people don't get away with shit because they're like, oh my God, that person just stole a bag. This person just murdered someone. That person, there's people everywhere. But in the countryside, there's no one there. In the countryside, no one hears you scream. And I thought it was a very good point. Why would you commit a crime in public that you have a much, much higher chance of getting away with if you committed in private? It's a bit like thinking that the best place to deal drugs is on stage at Glastonbury. With all of the cameras from around the world, the BBC like zooming in on you. Here you go, here's your money, here's your drugs. Or a back alley at night. Like, what are you going to pick? What are you going to pick? You know? Amy's back with another £5 super chat. Thank you very much, Amy. Amy Walker, anyone in the Northwest, protest in Manchester Street, Peter Square at 3 p.m. Amy, can you tell me when that protest is? Is that today or is that tomorrow? Let me know, and I'll publicise that a bit more. Protest in the Northwest. It was Amy Walker who I think it's Amy Walker who put that on first. So let me know. Is that today or tomorrow? Can't rob a bank in Shropshire. They're all closed down. Well, you know what I mean. Like, why would you make your life more difficult to commit a crime if you've got to commit a crime? But yeah, I'm amazed at judges who have like spent a lot of time dealing with criminals and must know the criminal mind better than I do. I mean, are all like criminals like wacky people who like, want to go on wacky schemes to achieve a goal? This is like, what does that happen? Does Mrs. Doubtfire happen? Has that actually happened ever where someone's pretended to be a woman in order to infiltrate the family home so they can spend time with their kids against a court order? That movie's a bit shocking, actually, because there's a court order against him visiting his kids, and he goes, oh, no, I'm just going to do that. He'll go to jail for a very long time at the end of that movie. A very, very long time. Benny says, it's more of a trans person denying and not accepting what gender they are. It's not a choice, I'm afraid. You can choose many things in life, but not what sex you are. Unfortunately, that's life, says Benny. But Benny, that's absolute bullshit. You can choose your gender. Of course you can. It's not even a choice. It's not even a choice. You talk to people who are transgender. They've known it from the start. It's like saying you can't be gay. People are. And when we talk about sex, yes, there are XX chromosomes and XY chromosomes, but what if you are somewhere in between? Or, as sometimes happens, you are XX, but you are born looking like a woman. Well, not like a woman, like a baby. I mean, all babies look like babies, but, you grow up because of a particular part of your DNA which is structured in such a way that you don't produce testosterone, for instance. And so you look, for all intents and purposes, like a woman. But if someone checks your bloody blood or however they do it, you're XX. You're XY, sorry. You're XY. There were so many cases where women, cisgender women, have been brought up as women all their lives, and then they're found to have gonads. Like, literally, they've got testicles. Because all life is here. We are a spectrum on everything, on absolutely everything. And I know that it's a problem for certain people who I assume have difficulty with complexity and want to go back to a very, very simple life where they're told what to do in the morning and told what to think and told how to behave. Yes, sir. No, sir. 3 bags full, sir. I understand there are people who feel that way, and maybe it's a sexual thing. Maybe it's a kink, to do what you're told. I don't know. I'm not going to kink shame or shame anyone in that way. I understand that flight from complexity because life is very, very complex. But when it's absolutely nothing to do with you whatsoever, the way someone else lives their life, that's not hurting anyone, and yet people who want to hurt that person are making life worse, not just for that person, but for everyone. And why you would want a world that we live in now, why you would want this world to be the world in which we live in, where little girls can be strip searched by the Met Police, and the Met Police by males in the Met Police, and the males can say, I thought they were trans. Because apparently, according to you, you can't change your sex, but you can change your appearance. So who's to say? Who's to say that that woman who looks like a woman, how do you know? Do you have to get a chromosome test for everyone? Even then, that's not going to be clear for some people who are intersex, who might have XXY. Or what are the other different plethora of intersex conditions of chromosomes? But this idea that, it's too complex to me that there are people who are men and people who are women, and then there's people who and not quite, either one or the other. Any way you define the biology of it, that happens. And it's frustrating to everyone else who can understand and get their head around this. It doesn't seem that complex, but the complexities of sexuality, sex, gender, and the fact that there are always going to be exceptions. There will always be exceptions. There will always be gay people. There will always be bisexual people. And to define it as a choice is a bit disingenuous. That's very disingenuous, actually, because for these people, it's not a choice. It's who they are. It's like saying I have a choice whether to wear glasses or not. I don't. If I don't wear my glasses, I can't see anything. I can't read the fucking text coming up on the screen. Why would you deny me my glasses? Oh, well, statistics show that people with glasses commit 15% more crimes than people without. So we're going to have to take your glasses off you. How does that make any sense whatsoever? Oh, we can just wear contact lenses. You'll be fine. Di says, £5 super chat. Countryside, according to Stephen Fry, and the act of killing Piers Morgan. Countryside. I like that, Di. And then Ivan, thank you very much. Can we please differentiate between mental health problems of nasty pieces of work, e.g. the majority of billionaires and most people who are in a bad place and wouldn't hurt a fly? Otherwise, people can get upset. Yes, Ivan, sorry. I'm saying that the addiction to money should be framed in the same way like an addiction to alcohol. These people need help. But my point is that an addiction to alcohol will affect the person very badly who's addicted to alcohol and could kill them. It will also affect the people around them because it destroys relationships, causes a lot of heartache, maybe even violence. But it doesn't lead to that one person affecting the whole of society. Their mental health problem isn't destroying the fabric of Western civilization, if you want to call it that. The billionaires, with their money obsession, it absolutely is. The reason why the richest man in the world is going around slapping the food out the mouths of starving children in Sudan, why he's taken away Medicare, why he's taken away Medicaid in America from the poorest, the disenfranchised, veterans, pensioners. Why is he doing that? Why is the richest man taking food from the poorest people on the planet? I'll tell you why, because it's never enough. We need to cure him of his addiction. And the best way to do that, I think, is to put him in a padded cell and make him lick the walls for the rest of his life. But, trans protest. This is from Witchy Goth. Trans protest in Sheffield City Hall, 2 p.m. on the 19th tomorrow. So yes, please join that if you are able. I've gone way over time here, but I've got to add a lot of things. You can't help who you fall in love with, but you can decide whether you have a penis or not, says Benny. What? I don't think... Okay. Veg Pie, who gifted me a membership and when? I just noticed. Thank you very much. It was Andrew. No, it was yesterday, I think. It was Alistair. I think it was Alistair yesterday. You became a member. So well done. Well done, Veg Pie. You're now a member. It's just for a month. And then Pineapple Boy, £5 super chat. I'm upset how the right is dictating the narrative. Trans are an issue to no one. The billionaires are. Yep, couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. If we're going to make legislation, if we're going to demonize a minority of the population, let it be billionaires. Let it be the people who are actively causing damage to society, to civilization as a whole. Individuals who are going out to destroy our way of life because they want a world in which they can crush anyone they want. And they'll have the government and the legal backing to do it. So they've already got the money to do it, but there are certain protections. There are certain protections that they want to get rid of. And once those protections are gotten rid of, it's going to be an absolute ball ache to get those back. I want to be rich and famous, is Jimmy Savile says that's safety edit, lol. That's for formal music. Big Marvinsky, that comment is my cue to leave. See you tomorrow. That's from Big Marvinsky. Katie says, absolute garbage. 30 years ago, a pilot would continue as a pilot if they started to need glasses. Just couldn't start out having glasses. There you go. James says, I love how they constantly have to define woman, but never had to go on to define what a man is. It's constantly targeting the women. Labour have lost all goodwill with me. Don't let them into pride. Yeah, I think they've done. I think they've done some real fucking damage to their reputation over this. Labour should be the party for the downtrodden. Should be the party for the minorities, but because of and we'll talk about this at 1 o'clock on the agenda, but because of this country, because of the media barons who have dripped poison into the minds of people who read these newspapers, people who go to their websites, people who share these stories. And don't forget that the Telegraph published over 1,000 negative stories about trans people in a year. 1,000 stories in a year, 3 a day for the entire year. That is just fucking bonkers. And because government is obviously a reflection of the attitudes of the people, and the government need to reflect the attitudes of a majority in order to get through this, and with to get re-elected, and transphobia is seen as acceptable on the left. And this is our fight. Okay, so I'm going to leave it on this. I genuinely believe, right, that most people who consider themselves to be on the left are okay most of the time, right? I think that there is a way of getting people who are on the left, who have been taken in by this transphobic nonsense. I think there is a way of getting them back on our side. Okay? The right, fuck them. They're too far gone. But people who are on the left when it comes to the situation in Gaza, in Ukraine, people who care about workers' rights and women's rights, I think that there is a way of talking to them and getting them to get their head around the fact that this is all part of a plot by the right to divide the left and make it so that the only way Labour can ever get re-elected is if they go along with it, get carried by the flow of public opinion. A public opinion that is shaped by the billionaire bastard, bigoted buggers. The likes of Murdoch and Rothermere and Barclay and that Richard Desmond creep who ran a fucking magazine called Barely Legal, for fuck's sake. I mean, Barely Legal. This man made his money by taking naked pictures of teenagers and printing them out in magazines and putting them on the top shelf of every country, every shop in the country, every newsagent. I mean, we need to get through to people on the left that it's not like the LGB alliance is a nice part of 55 Tufton Street. No, they're all working together with the oligarchs, with the billionaires, in order to take away our human rights. Because the end game here, and this is the important bit that I think you need to stress to people, is that the European Court of Human Rights is that Britain, a founding member of the European Court of Human Rights, withdraws from it like we withdrew from the EU. There's the same group of people who wanted us out of the EU who are pushing for this because they know that it's a Trojan horse. They do this, it goes to the European Court of Human Rights. I think that they will deem this judgment by the Supreme Court eventually when this happens, when it goes through. I think they will deem this ineligible and knock it back. I don't know how it would work. I don't know what the mechanism would be, but they'll say, no, this is not the right way to interpret this law. And I think also it's up to Labour to get ahead of this. Labour need to rewrite this badly worded law that didn't define what biology was, what they meant. It didn't define what they meant by a woman. And it's very, very simple, right? I don't understand why there is any kind of objection to this. You are a woman if you are a cisgender woman who has a birth certificate saying you're a woman and you live your life as a woman. You are also a woman if you are a trans woman who has a gender recognition certificate. You are a man if you were born a man. It says male on your birth certificate. and you grew up as a man and you have all the bits of a man, you're a man, okay. And you're also a man if you are a trans man who has a gender recognition certificate. End of. That's how it works. That is literally how it works. I don't understand why that was so hard. If someone can explain to me why that couldn't be the case. And I know a lot of trans people don't have gender recognition certificates, but I think even, I think that most people, and I don't want to speak for the trans community, obviously, because I'm not trans myself, but I think most of our trans friends would agree that once you've got the certificate, that should be it. No debate. There's no grey area here. You're a woman. You're a trans woman. You've got GRC. You are a woman. You're a trans man. You got a GRC. You're a man. Up to that point, okay, there's a grey area. But this idea that men with a beard who look like me are putting a fucking wig on so we can go and rob a bank or commit some crime, it's just not... But then again, my generation, we grew up in an era where there was a constant recycling of a storyline where someone thought they were going out with a girl, but actually she had a penis, and then they found out she had a penis, and then they'll be sick everywhere. Even though the trans person in question looked like Sean Young, who's gorgeous. Like, why would you be sick? Like, why would you? What's with that? That is just a weird reaction. But that was the norm. That was the joke. Ha ha ha. This is the sort of thing they do, Ivan, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. When people are openly anti to any group of people, it's easy to get them out of your life. It's the ones who are secretly like that, which makes it so much harder. Yeah, Ivan. But look, what I'm saying is I'm not going to sit here and give instructions for trans people on what they need to do next, except keep on. Please keep on. But for the cisgender people who are allies to the trans community, have a word with your mates who have gone that way. Who are left wing on everything else. Have a word and explain the consequences of this ruling that they should not be celebrating for the reasons that we have outlined today here on this 1 hour show that went for 1 hour and 45 minutes. Okay. Well, listen, lots of love to everyone watching, genuinely. There are some of us who really care about these issues and care about your well-being, and that's got to come first. You have to put the mask on yourself before you can put it on someone else. And when the plane's going down, if you're drowning yourself, you can't save someone else from drowning. You need to make sure that you're safe, you're okay, your buoyancy aid is working, and then you can help other people. So number one is you. Look after yourself, look after your mental health. And if that means not watching the news, not doom scrolling, please take a break, turn your phone off, drop it in a glass of water if you have to, just get out for a little while. And contact your friends, see people that you know who love you and care about you and want the best for you, and spend some time with them over the weekend. We've got a nice long weekend coming up. It's Good Friday today. It's a bad Friday really because of what's been happening over the last few months. But I will say to the people who are watching this, who are allies, please keep this conversation going. Please point this stuff out to people because they just don't know. And it's not going to be pointed out by the mainstream press, by the mainstream media, that the right wing had a huge problem with a few years ago until they didn't for some reason. Now they love it. Now it's all good and just tells the truth all the time. It's a bit weird. Yeah, please, if you can, help where you can. Thanks to everyone who has dropped a chat in and hasn't been banned this morning. And thanks, Diz. And if you or any of your loved ones is going through it at the moment, like I say, please put your mental health and the mental health of your friends first before we do anything else, because we need you in the fight ahead. Especially if you're trans, we need you because there's not many trans people, and we need every single trans person to not necessarily be leading the fight, but just to be there, to exist, to be proof that a life can be lived and there's hope. There's something to look forward to, which is a day that these fucking bigots are put back in their place. and I get to throw them in a padded cell and lock the fucking door. This is my hope. So, give us a like on the way out. You know the drill. It'll go for the algorithm. Feed the algorithm. And I know that a lot of people are now members of the channel, thanks to Alistair and Andrew. Thank you very much. And others who've paid for other people to become members, which is a kind thing to do. So, but if you want to join, if you're not a member and you'd like a little rose next to your name, and I'm going to update the credits now because I've been meaning to do it for weeks, and my list of members just keeps changing every day, and it's an absolute ball ache to change because it's got to be in alphabetical order, and it's got to be split across 4 pages or however many pages it is at the end. Yeah, it's a. So I'll do that now, but I'll be back at 1:00 with Phil Morehouse. But if you do want to join the channel, just hit the join button if it's available to you. And yeah, I'll be back at 1:00 with Phil Morehouse. If you want updates like when we're going to be going live and stuff like that, because it's not always to schedule, just subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification icon, and that will give you access to a little notification that will let you know when we're about to go live. I normally put something up about half an hour beforehand to say we are going live. Ivan saying, can't join as a member, Graham. I give up with it. I don't know what the problem is, Ivan. I think it maybe if you make it, I don't know what to advise. I don't know why it's not letting you do it. Maybe you need to. I mean, your name's on the credits, so I don't know. It might be that you have to set up another account, maybe. I don't know. I really have no idea why they won't let you join. You might want to look into your setup. Like, are you... The only thing I could think of is maybe there's some kind of like parental lock on it that you've accidentally put on or something. I don't know. That doesn't allow you to spend money on Google services. Like, I don't know. We'll have a chat about it, Ivan. You got my number. We'll have a chat about it. But like, it does seem a bit weird. Is there a block stopping you from spending money on Google Play or something like that? Because that would be affected by YouTube, wouldn't it? Because it's all part of the same organization. Otherwise, I don't know what it's all about. Pineapple Boy didn't watch the news from November the 4th to January. Pineapple Boy, I don't blame you at all. And Anfield says, my bro says, never criticize a man until you've walked a mile in his shoes. That way, when you do criticize him, you're a mile away and you have his shoes. I like that. Okay, like I say, I'll be back at 1:00, so I'm going to go and do it's only going to take me about an hour to do these fucking credits. But thank you to everyone who's joined the channel. And we are going to try and get Ivan a membership at some point, one way or another. You might have to set up a new username thing. You might have to set up a new profile, Ivan. I don't know. Your lack of organization may be a sign of autism. I'll check that out, mate. Come on. I've done over 1,000 shows that I've started at 9 or 9:30 in the morning, every morning for the last 2 years. Well, every weekday morning. So, give me a bit of a break there. But, I am ADHD. And it's fine, you know? It's just trying to, like, do normal shit with a monkey on your back. Or, 17 tabs open all at the same time. You don't know where the music's coming from. It's very true. I've had Pink Pony Club by Sheffield Roan stuck in my fucking head for like the last month now. It just won't go away. It's a decent song. At least it's not like, I don't know, Summer of 69 or something. Okay, so thanks very much to everyone for watching. And until 1:00 when I see you again, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.